Baila, 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 yo cosere, baila, 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 yo cosere, ay comanda que baila, baila, yo cosere, baila, 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 yo cosere, baila, 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 yo cosere, ay comanda que baila, baila.
Well, I'm a Mexican physician, 36-year-old. I was born in Ciudad Guzman, Jalisco, in the center of Mexico, 2 hours from Guadalajara. I grew in Guadalajara, and I went there to med school in Universidad of Guadalajara. And I was finishing my career in 2002. Um, I was born in a normal family, and I start being hooked by my own desire of exploring the world. And at the beginning of my life, I need just myself to be happy. But with the time, I start to be uh, hooked into the toys, into the things that I saw on TV, and I start to feel like a necessity to feel this emptiness with love. So I tried all kinds to feel happy with the social recognition, sports, the study, and I was good. I was a normal kid all my life until uh, when I was a teenager. Then I changed from a private school to a public one in the high school, and then I start to try to fit in this new environment. So I start acting as an adult, or what I thought that being an adult was about. So I start drinking alcohol and smoking cigarettes. And one day I start smoking cannabis. And because of the confusion in my mind, because of the education that I received, that I thought that all the substances were bad except those one with who were legal, like or permitted, like alcohol, or socially well accepted. So when I had the first experience with cannabis, for me was like so much better than getting drunk. And then I thought that all the substances that we call drugs were the same. So I started to trying the rest of the substances that were available for me at those times, who were the solvents, and then snoring cocaine. And one day I took 7 sleeping pills, clonazepam, 2 milligrams, with a cousin of me in her grandpa's house. And I didn't know the effects of this prescription medication. So I took like 7 of these pills. Environment, my habits were different, but I still smoking weed sometimes, and I could not drink a couple of beers without triggering the desire and impulse to having a stimulant as cocaine. So I was a good student, but at the beginning of the semesters, I was just a little bit disconnect of what I was doing. But the day that I was with a person as a patient, and I was a student on the 5th semester, then I felt the importance and the responsibility that of the path that I choose. So I became the best of the best in reading, in being in the hospitals, in studying, and the rest of the semester, I was just really focused on learning more about the human functions and the pathology and the all the the processes of the life and also of losing that health. And when I went to the social service, I get married when I was 20, and my first son was born when I was 21, and I finished my med school when I was 23. So the last year in the social service, I was with my wife. She's also a physician. She kept the studies, and she's an anesthesiologist, and she worked with palliative care for terminal patients with cancer and all these horrible diseases. So in that last year of the career, I met a doctor in the social service, and one day we were talking about the experiences of life, and we've end talking about drugs. And I told him about my experiences that I was still carrying in the deepest part of my soul. It was an unsolved subject for me. So he told me about the peyote and the mushrooms, and I didn't know about sacred plants. I only had experience with marijuana, and all the rest of the things that I knew were synthetic drugs and prescription drugs. And because I was a doctor, I knew since I was a teenager that it wasn't on the pills the answers for having a good quality of life. So for me, the hospitals were like these houses where people just go to try to fix what they are doing with their lives. Sometimes are accidents, and you can't explain why a convict can get into the emergency room with 200 stabs and survive, and why some children can just fell down from the bed and be in a coma. So I understood that it didn't matter that all the team of specialists and practitioners inside of the hospitals are doing their best effort to try to prevent people to hurt themselves with their habits and their actions and their attitudes. So hospitals are full with all these people who are sick because of the way of living, because of the diabetes, of junk food, of sugar, because of the high blood pressure, of the stress, the lack of exercise, the sedentarism. And there is so many accidents that happened because we are just careless with automotive vehicles, with extreme sports, and also with substances. So suddenly it was a pandemia all over the world and all over the places. Rehab centers start to appear all over the cities. And for me, it was just a confusion that I could not answer those questions even being there. And after really trying to find out the the, res- yeah, the reasons for everything to happen. So I was egocentric, egomaniac, selfish, egocentric human in the middle of all these game for competition or for being more than the rest, and for being rich and famous, and for being good and accepted, and for being useful for everyone, for the creation. But I was really lost, and I just quit for looking for answers in the church, in the religion, in the education, in the books, in the family. And I was just looking, and I asked for an answer. I prayed for an answer. So one day, talking with this friend about the medicines, we went for a wedding, and in the wedding we started to drinking alcohol. And after 2 or 3 tequilas, this monster that I had inside of me, and was the reason for all my problems, because I was unable to control my own impulses and my own uh, uh, desires and feelings. The stimulants like cocaine just enhance and magnify this instinct for just wanting more of all things that makes you feel pleasant or happy or enjoyable. So I asked my friend to come with me because I needed some cocaine, and then he was so upset, and he told me that how can I be, or supposed to be, or pretend to be, or try to be someone who take care for other ones if I'm just not good with myself. So I understood completely that I was lost. And he introduced me to a friend of him that it was a guy who had experiences with natural medicines, sacred medicines, ancient medicine, traditional medicines, as the mushroom and the peyote. So I met this guy, and we make these plans to go to Wirikuta to have the experience with the Lopopora Wilamsi, the peyote. This was in 2005 or 2004. And before going to the desert, he went to India to study an exchange for Ayurveda medicine. And in the way back, he stopped here in London for a few days. And he bought some herbs and plants in a smoke shop, like wild lettuce, and among those substances or those plants were the Salvia divinorum. So he called me when he arrived to Mexico and asked me to visit him. And at his place, he offered me the different plants. But and they were just really middle and soft. But when we touched the salvia before the first salvia experience, I just felt this feeling inside of my heart and my solar plexus that I was about to find something, and was it was like that indeed. I just had the first 5x experience with Salvia divinorum, and then I was gone from this reality. It was like someone just flushed on the toilet, and all the world was gone in this little tiny point at the middle. So I was sucked by this warmth of light, and at the other side there were these intelligent beings with all these perfect uh, I don't know, it was another world, beautiful world that I never experienced before. And when I came back to my body, instantaneously I asked for more. The 20x salvia, and then I went back to that same place. Was the continuing of my first experience, and then I had more time for navigate. So I start to receive and to have this download of information. These energies were talking to me through symbols and colors, and myself was interpreting that as some kind of information. So after the experience was finished and I was back to my body, I was overwhelmed and mesmerized by these ancient technologies. So my friend showed me the book of Plants of Gods, okay, of Hoffman and Schultz. And then I started reading the book, and my brain started to make all the connections, because I knew in the pharmacology of med school all the group of neurotransmitters that are the responsible for the transmission of the messages and the emotions, and that's how our bodies work, through these precious and unique gifts from nature. So then I found out that it was 103 plants, and I just knew one or maybe two with cannabis. I was just ignoring them, and by then I was about to have my certificate as a general practitioner for the medicine that the Western society is given to people through the doctors and the nurses and hospitals and the health system, that from one hand has provided to us of many technological advances, and the medicine of these days is beautiful, but at the same time we just forgot something important, that we belong to the nature, and we are all those plants and all those medicines. Everything that we just take and interfere or alterate or activate some kind of part of ourselves is because we already have the special receptors for those compounds. Mm-hmm. This is not because of the chance. This is not by chance. This is because it's what it is. And we know all that now because the electronic microscope and all the technology that we have now. Now science is telling us the real truth about these demonized plants, these dismiss and disrespect wisdom and knowledge that was inherited from our ancestors. And so then I went to Wirikuta to try the peyote. And being in the desert, it was like this veil just came out and just was vanished, solved for the effects of the first real natural stimulant that my body had received in my whole life, beside the coffee, the tea, the chocolate, the sugar, the TV, the sex, the blah, 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 blah. So after the week that I spent in Wirikuta, eating the peyote and having these beautiful, beautiful experiences of reconnected with the kingdom of nature. And I decided to share the things that I belong with people, all the things that I didn't use anymore. I was just about to just give them away because I understood that we are all one, and then I understood why for this Huichol and the Wirrárica people the peyote is sacred. And 2 weeks after the peyote experience, we went to beach in Michoacán named Maruata, and this is a Nahuatl community. Those it was really peaceful and calm, and it was famous for the weed. So we went to Maruata to spend a few days on the beach, and I took all the things that I was collecting with all my friends just to give to the people that have nothing, and to just share the clothes and the toys and all the things with the people of the village. And then this guy approached to us and he offered a beer. So we drink a beer, and then he tell me, you know, I got everything that you need. And I just smile and look at my friend, and then start to raining. So we um, put all our stuff together into the truck, and we went with my other friend who introduced me with the Aurum ounce, and we smoked it in 3 days. So we did the same 4 weekends. After the 4 weekend, I was completely hooked, crack, and then I spent being a crackhead the next 2.5 years. When I went to pick up my new girlfriend, so mm, so uh, suddenly I was with no family, pursuing a dream, and completely sick and alone, and unable to be present. I was all the time on the desire of having more, and more and more, and that just didn't give me a moment of peace. It was just there all the time. So uh, we went together to Oaxaca, and then the Pelicano and my friend Jerry, they were there smoking crack. So they offered me, and I didn't want it to accept more, but I wanted to heal myself. So I took a whole, they call it maestros or masters or teachers, the huge mushroom that grows from the soil, not from the cattle dung, and a tea of mushrooms. So I ate it and drink the tea. I drank the tea, and then I went to the cabin with my girlfriend, and this before going to Oaxaca to have the experience with the mushroom, I went to visit Jerry. I think that it was the second week after we smoke all that crack. And he says, brother, I think that it's time for you to try the mushrooms. So just look for them. They are the ones who have this little ring bottom, a purple one, uh, golden caps with this ring. You can't miss them or get confused. They are unique. So I was driving back to my home, 3 hours from place to Guadalajara, 3 hours and a half or something. The new road was finally complete. So I stopped in a ranch and I was looking with all the cows, all where this mushroom couldn't find the first time. Truck, and then I looked, and in my foot, there was little tiny mushroom. So I caught them, and then it was the rings. Oh, these are the ones. I ate it, and we start keep driving, and then my girlfriend saw us there, and it was like this. We were driving, and she just saw this huge mushroom on the grass. So I stopped and I start just cutting and eat them, and I just fill up all my stomach with those mushrooms. And then I had again experience with this some kind of cosmic intelligence, just like the salvia showed me, but it was completely different than the experience of the salvia. Mm-hmm. But it was something to belong to that same world that has nothing to do with crack, cocaine, and all the other group of substances. So that day, having the first experience with the sacred mushroom, the Tonanacatl, I just had this experience with the other mushrooms, but this was completely different energy. And it was like all the little cabinets start to cracking to, and then I can just explain it like this: the spirit of the sacred mushroom show in front of my face, and he start to make jokes and say, you have no fucking clue, man. You are thinking that it's a Salvia Divinorum and you don't have idea. You will be back with nothing on your hands. All this was for nothing. You have no idea. So next morning, I woke up really pissed off with the mushroom and with the nature, because I was obsessed with the Salvia Divinorum. Mm-hmm. So I drove another 8 hours from San Jose el Pacifico to Huautla de Jimenez, the little town of Maria Sabina, because the Salvia Divinorum just grow in that area of Oaxaca, in not another place in the world. It's originary from there. Okay. So I went asking or trying to find a relative of Maria Sabina named Majulia, and I started looking in the town. I didn't have any address or anything, just the name. And people looked at me and said, "No, I don't know nothing about Salvia Divinorum or Scapastora or Leaves of the Virgin, or we don't know nothing." But we spent there hours, so people just got that I wasn't leaving that place until I spoke with Majulia. So then a kid came and said, "Hey man, come with me. I take you with Mama Julia." So I met the girl, and when the old lady, and when she looked at me, she says, "Oh, are you here because of the holy kids, Los Niños Santos? You want some mushrooms? And I'm no. I just have experience, and I no, I don't want mushrooms. I'm here because I want the salvia divinorum. So I spent a whole week trying to dry the salvia divinorum leaves on the rooftop of her house, and they were just looking at me and like laughing. And finally, the day that the leaves were dried, I rolled a huge cigar of Salvia divinorum leaves, and I said, "Okay, here we go again. Fasten your seatbelts, your seatbelts, because here I go." So I finished the cigar, and nothing happened. I just had this really, really, really tiny little middle effect, but no, nothing. Just the taste and the flavor in my mouth, and that was it. So yeah, the mushroom was right. It wasn't the Salvia divinorum. So I went back to my place with empty hands, nothing, just a little bit of hash and no Salvia divinorum, and still being hooked into the crack. So I went again back to the desert of Wirikuta to try to heal with the peyote. And I was really needed for more income, so I went to look for another job. I was the director of a rehab clinic, specialized in treating addictions for women, and I wasn't. So I was living from the inside the worst. I was an hypocrite.
Yep.
Hypocrite.
Hypocrite's
Yeah.
good. Yep.
A hypocrite.
Yep.
And I was just living this nightmare, or a horrible nightmare. The first day that I went to work, I found this patient that it was the wife of one of the guy who made that mushroom cake to Botas, because after that we became friends, and then we were partying in their house with all the blah 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 blah, and then she was my patient there because they were snoring cocaine and using, I think that MDMA, it was not just MDMA, a lot of amphetamine and methamphetamine in those pills. Yeah. So one day, after treating people and following, I wasn't in charge of the treatment of the drug addicts. That was the work of the psychiatrists, and I wasn't also given the therapies, because that was the work of the psychologist. I was just doing, when people arrive to the clinic, I was like the first approach being to the patients. I did the clinic history, and I was helping with the indications and supervising that everything was going good. But I suddenly noted that this was just not working for people. They were just addicts to something before going into the clinic, and then after the clinic they were addicts to, and it was just a huge business for all these places.
Were these opiate users, or were these using all sorts of drugs?
They use all kinds of benzodiazepines, antidepressants, antipsychotic. I mean, the medicines that are used for trying to manipulate and control chemically the functions of our bodies. they are just not working. We can see it. It's everywhere. It's every time more people suffering of the same diseases, and more every time more. So we are now trying to go back. Well, I will continue with
The story.
the story.
Yep.
So I start to telling to the family, the patients, because after being free time, then I was back into the drug
Yep.
addiction and consumption. So I'm still being an addict right now, and I know that all the humans are addicts. It's just that there is different kind of habits and behaviors, and there is one that are more the destructible, and other that are maybe more helpful and less dangerous. Or now I know that there is things that are good for you, and those things were classified as things that are really bad for you. And
Mm.
otherwise, people were doing things that think that were great for them, and now I say no. Stop with the chemicals. We need to go again with organic food and blah blah blah. So uh, then guys who to try to clean themselves and be responsible of their acts without using so much chemicals. And also, I I never hide to the owners of the place that I was a drug addict, that I had all this background of substances, and that I knew that something different needs to be done. And also because I was following uh, um, my heart in all this, and
Hmm.
I just really wanted to help people and to help myself since the first beginning when I was 16. So few months after running this new project, and it was great. I was just using exercise, healthy food, meditation, uh, all kind of alternative techniques. I tried to use the less amount of pills that it was, and the results were great for the patients. But the society, or the 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 co-workers, the owners of the clinic, they just start to be that it wasn't the good business that they were trying to make, because how I was just doing the work really one by one, no real trying to sell something. It was a beautiful experience living there, but then it was no money even for paying the personnel who worked there, or even for myself. So they just quit, and they gave me uh, all the control of all the clinic, the decision, and things started going better, because being myself in charge, and knowing that there is better ways to treat anxiety, insomnia, the lack of hunger. So I started to use cannabis with some of my patients inside of
Okay.
the clinic, for trying to not use any kind of prescription pills, and the results were excellent. So excellent that I left my patients alone. There was some guys who were helping. It was just the patients and myself, the place with the help of a couple of people who were going to help with some therapies, with blah blah blah. But because I was there for months and I was just experiencing all of this, I could just doing it by myself. And so one day was the World Cup, and then I needed to go to see the first game of the national team, Mexican national team, to TV. So I left my patients alone in the clinic. And the next morning, I arrived, and then there was one guy missed. Then I count again: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. Where is? So they said, doc, yesterday after you just left, he took your bike. He went. He says that he will go for the milk for eating. So this guy, who was, I don't know, in rehab centers, like, I don't know, 10 times, and he was just using heroin and crystal meth and crack cocaine and all those substances. He went back to his home and told his mom that I was giving them drugs. So yeah, so she called the owner of the clinic and the people who were renting the place. So they called me, and it was obvious that it was done for myself, the work there. 2 weeks before this happened, I received a call of my friend Jerry, and he says, I am out of the crack for the last 2 weeks, and I got the medicine. Where are you? Oh, I'm here in Chapala, working at the clinic. A puppy that he had, the Jimbo, he died that day. So I received the call of his wife telling, Jimbo just has passed away right now, and tell Jerry. He was too old.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it was natural, but it was really for him because he spent like 12 years with that guy, with that being, and like family, so for him was like this part of himself was gone, and then he was crying, and then he just told me, brother, I will confess you something. The sacred ingredient for that medicine, it's the Sonoran desert toad. Then I received the phone call of my wife saying, hey, your daughter is just born. They were in Arizona, and please come to pick us up to Nogales. So I just look at my friend and says, okay, get in and let's go. So we drove together to Sonora. We didn't have any money, but he had a kilo of mushrooms that he collect. So we just, with that energy of the I will say that the guys who show to how to extract the medicine of the toad were two American guys, Evan and Corvis, and I met them. And one of them says that they knew how to extract the toad from Japanese scientists that was in prison because after the end of the Second World War, the Japanese government was using amphetamines to increase the productivity of the people, and that all they were just put away of society, and they met that condition because he was smuggling with hash, and he spent a couple of years in a prison in Tokyo, and then these Japanese scientists told him about toad, and they spent 2 years looking for that. The real thing is that I don't believe that story. if Evan is listen or will listen this, I would love to hear him to clarify this
Yeah.
subject. I think that they were belong to the rainbow community or all this community of hippie communes in California, and they just knew about the toll, but they didn't know how to use it properly, how to smoke it properly, and they just were underestimating the power or the potential of the medicine just because they, like everyone else, didn't know what they had in their hands at that moment. And so my friend mountain bike for a little bit of the medicine that he gave to me in Chapala at that time, and then I sent him with some of the friends that I knew that in having that kind of experience. But at that time, I was just surrounded by all these psychedelic scenes, so I connect him with the guy who provide the LSD and the guy who run some parties. So he went back to Oaxaca with a lot of LSD, a lot of MDMA, and a lot of money, and then they became friends with Covan and Evan and Corvis. But the real deal of how they show him the medicine, it was because of the mushroom. Because Jerry was living on Oaxaca for many years, having the connection with the people there, and he knew and he knows how to find the mycelium, this invisible organism that it's um, shifting year after year the place, but the people there know where to look for this mushroom mycelium that it grows hundreds or thousands of psychedelic mushrooms in the same spot. You don't need to find just three here and four there, and it's like huge. So he agreed with them to show them the mycelium if they show him how to extract that medicine.
Yep.
So they show him a video of how to extract the toll medicine. And when I went to Oaxaca and I met the guys, uh, they were agreed to go together for the medicine, but um, we can trust his word anymore because he was just showing constantly that he's like that.
Yeah.
So he didn't went with these guys. He just left them there in the mountains of Oaxaca, and we went together to Sonora. And at 3 nights we collect some medicine. I went to pick up my daughter, and then we drove back to Jalisco, and I start self-healing process with the medicine. At the beginning, I mix and combine because once that I had this is funny also. Once that I arrived to Guadalajara with the toad medicine, and I start to tell everyone that this was from Sonoran Desert Toad, that I don't have any, I was not manufacturing anything, I was not doing anything, I was just sharing this beautiful gift from nature with everyone, with no any distortion on the information, because it was about clear and honest all the time. That's why I still talking about this with no fear. So, I use when I arrived to Guadalajara, and all the people in the psychedelic scene, people who had all the substances good quality substances, not available for everyone, obviously.
Yep.
Uh, uh, Someone just trade some salvia divina of an extract X20 for some toad medicine, and then I start to mix the salvia with the toad, with the LSD, with the MDMA, even with the crack, get rid of everything, and also trying to reach the same point or the same place at that night in Maruata. But that was just impossible. Has never happened again. And I tried all kind of ways to be there, and it's just not possible. It is something that just happened to me once, and but I learned because when I get the salvia, I went to this world, but it was not peaceful anymore. It was just showing me that I needed to get clean and I needed to be healed, and that it was no reason for me to be going back there. That world was forbidden
Okay.
to myself until I accomplish what I was doing or what I needed to do for myself. So it was really frightening because trying to go to feel good and then being punished like that. So at the 2 or 3 times that they told me this is it, I just get it. And I said, okay, I'm not coming here anymore and I will do my homework. And then I note on my body note that after the toad medicine, I always went back into the center, into the balance. And then I start to get used to that feeling of being okay. Until the day that I took the crack and just throw it away. I didn't want it, and until today, it's gonna be 8 years. It's the last time that I did that to myself. So it took me 18 months since the first toad experience until the last rock of crack. When I was completely healed of my addiction, but my body was so skinny because I lost at the beginning of the addiction like 30 kilos. Weighing 93. I was 5 years in the gym and I used to drink all these protein shakes and do exercise every. And suddenly I was just like a skeleton. And I tried to recover myself, but it was just impossible until I just quit with that. And then it took me maybe 1 year and a half, maybe 2 years for being completely just even with overweight. uh, and but I was recover, and I was not recover. I was free for the first time in my whole life. I don't need more of anything.
Excellent.
Not even toad medicine. Nothing. Nothing. I was just happy with being able just to smoke a joint once in a while, being happy with having a couple of beers or eating good. But the most important thing that I was able to be in peace with myself, breathing again freely. So I was the happiest, and I still being the happiest man in the world.
Excellent.
No matter what. And so it was after I was healed and in the way of recovering my weight that I started to share the medicine in the rave parties with drug addicts. because I wanted to see if it was just my delusion or it was really something with this. And then I noted that it was clear that people after the thought medicine, they just feel good. They don't want to hurt themselves anymore.
Excellent.
They don't want someone else. They just want to be in peace and happy. And so a few months later, I was just not well received in the rave parties. And even my friends who were the people who organized those, they just told me, don't come anymore. You're not welcome here. So please. It's because I was healing people of the consumption of substance, even the recreational ones, and they thought that was just dangerous for them. Bad for business, yeah, bad for business. So then I moved from Guadalajara and went to Sonora. I kept going to the desert 3 years, and at the third year I went to live there. But I was completely healed, so I just started working for the first time in my life as a general physician, for with no any kind of conflict in myself. I was just pure, clear, direct, and really honest. 20,000 medical consultants every year in the 4 years that I spent working in Hermosillo, one of the pharmacies that have more patients in all the city. And I was just really, I still been well known in Hermosillo, in the south of Hermosillo, for being a really good general doctor. I can't lie or deny or hide or change what it is. If I don't know, I just say I don't know. I can help you. I will tell you I can help you. Invent or try to make more. Yeah, I did that many times. It's not it's not convenient for anyone. So I was again sucked by the system of the comfort zone of being just buying a lot of things that you don't need just because you have the money to do it. And then when I start working right, then I start to have money. All the time before of that, where I was doing this and that, I was always with no any money in my pocket. And being a crackhead, it was even worse. 2 years with no any underwear, just the bottom of the bottom of the bottom. But suddenly I was just so happy to be normal that I forgot about what I was doing. So one day, because I still enjoying going to the desert at night to be there with the nature, with the toads, and collecting also the medicine. But I didn't use the medicine. I just was giving the medicine to people that I knew that they were use it properly, that won't sell it, that just wants to share that with more people, because I wasn't there doing it anymore, but more people can just do what I was doing. And instead of just, I don't know, thinking that those pills that you buy in a party are good for yourself, or those things that you don't know what they are, and you are just spending your money or your father's money, your parents' money in that, just because you think that it's cool, and just because your friends are doing it, and just because you wrote some book about the guy who 30 years ago had this blah 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 blah. But all these manufactured substances are just dangerous for everyone.
They're just rubbish,
It's
poison.
it's just and it's because we don't know. There is no any regulation. There is no, you don't know the quality of things, and it's just so easy to poison someone
Yeah.
and someone just for having an income. It's so sad. So I was I was getting rich just charging $3 for consultation, but I was watching 30 patients a day. So for me, it was no problem to just giving that medicine away. I have
Yeah.
no any problem with sharing the medicine. I never sell that to anyone. I was just sharing. And if I did that, it must be when it was before I was healed with the medicine, because I didn't know how this really will impact on my life, most people and other people's life. So one night I went to collect medicine, and the next morning I just saw something in my right foot, and I thought that I just touched some kind of plant, and it was like an allergic reaction. That I'm not allergic to anything, but I also never had that kind of process in my body. So the wound didn't heal, started getting worse, and one nurse saw my foot, and she said, "You know, doc, that seems to be a Lactobacillus reclusa virus, so it's dangerous, and you can just lose your extremity or even die. People have died for that kind of spiders. Where were you?" And I say, "Oh my God, I was just in the middle of the night, in the middle of the bushes, blah blah blah. Oh God." So I went to internet, look for images, and yeah, it was the same image that I had on my leg, and there is no antidote for that kind of bite, so that kind of poison. So everything was just about my immune system, and it was still progressing, the inflammation and everything. So I started to have nightmares of my right leg being cut. So I took out of the box the told medicine after almost 2 years of being just there. A different way to approaching these technologies. It was about trying to escape instead of trying to be here. So that day, with my eyes open, felt like something in my frontal lobe was again re reassembled, reconnected after that day that I took all those pills when I was a teenager. And I thought that I felt that my brain that day worked again properly.
When you took all that, sorry.
The day after, I was with no pain in my leg, and 80% of the inflammation was gone. So I was walking normally for the first time in weeks. So people, even my ex girlfriend of that time, Jael, she just was just maybe they were skeptical about the toad being useful or something. But after that happened to me, it was like, okay, then I think that I have something with my lungs and I want to try it. And then I start to share the medicine for the first time, not for addictions, not with substance users.
Yep.
It was just another approaching of the medicine, and marvelous results after those experiences. People who had problems for breathing and kind of bronchitis, chronicle, and insomnia or phobias about roaches or about rats, or just all these stupid fears about things
Irrational
that we
fears,
don't
huh?
do. Yeah, irrational fears. Yeah, and a lot of people start to have a better quality of life after the experience. Most of them didn't know that they need to heal something specific, or they were trying to fix something specific, and then they realized that more things were, uh, 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 yeah, uh, improving after the medicine. Look on the internet for all the info that was available, did the research, and then I found the James Horrocks book, also the book of Martin Ball about the intergenic evolution, and I took all the information about the ayahuasca and the tryptamines to the doctor, and he says, "Okay, this look interesting. You are breaking no any laws in Mexico, but also there is nothing that protect you or support you. If you want to work with this, you need to start to doing a research, and you need to start at least asking for some testimonials, and as an advice, just film everything and just be really clear with what are you doing here, because there is no, you are not following someone else's steps, you are just doing this by yourself, and only God knows what what can resolve for yourself or for other ones. So just be cautious. And if I just have the the if someone comes here to tell me, if I have just any kind of notice about this is harming someone in some way, this is over. So I was like, okay, so okay, perfect. So I start to write my own book of how this happened to myself, and then my ex-wife, the mother of my daughter, I sent all my my hand script, all the manuscript to them to read it, and then she says, I think that you must meet these guys. They are right now in the Amazon rainforest having the ayahuasca experience, and I think that they will understand what are you talking about. So I met these guys. I offered the ceremony to them. I was just using the Tibetan bowls and soft music, and inside of a room, really peaceful.
Yep.
And they had the medicine, and we agreed to meet to the Seri natives, and then was when the son of the shaman Raimundo had the first experience, and then I went to the community to share the medicine with other people invited by this first Seri who healed of the crystal meth. Until today, he's happy, and you can see it anytime. Raimundo in Sonora, in the Punta Chueca community with the series. He's so happy. So he invited me to share the medicine with other of his brothers. And there is one video in YouTube named Sanación Miguel, that it's this healing of one of the sons of the chief of the community.
Yep.
That was so bad, and he's all he talk in the Vice documentary. He's dressed with a white shirt, Miguel, and he's saying that thanks for the blessing that Dr. Octavio brought to us, because so that video, Sanación Miguel, is the first session of him, and he stopped breathing for like 4 minutes or something. You can see the video, and you will see how his first breath is like and I think that that day with them doing the medicine in the outside for the first time, not in my room, or not in the environment, nature, and then this fusion with the I think traditional way to use this medicine, or the ancient way to use this medicine. I'm using these words because it's not something contemporary. I think that it's not something that I'm creating and it's new. It's something that has been here since hundreds of thousands of years, and we just don't remember it. We are rediscovering our rescue something. So then I think that you had this conversation on the other interview about how I start to share the medicine first with some of the addicts of the community and some of people of the community, uh, just for and starts growing. I knew by then that this will happen, because that this is going to happen, because I saw it before in myself, and then with other people, and then I knew that the Seri community was the perfect place to prove to anyone that this was good for all of us, because it was I can do my work freely, openly there, and I can just measure what happened in this close, small group of people, and also because it was a blessing for me to give them back this ancient treasure, because I knew that the toad was important for the cultures of the past, because all the background that I have with one of my uncles. He's an archaeologist, and I went many times to the pyramids, and I knew that what we learn about these people are just really inaccurate. I think that it was not what they were doing, just extracting the hearts one of the other for no reason. And now I got all the images to show that to anyone, because the evidence is there in the museums, and also in the people. We don't have any tribe in Mexico or in Latin America that they still using some kind of human sacrifices for everything, or for something. Even those tribes who were never conquered as the Seris, they don't have any memory of being that kind of savages as the chronic chronists of the conquer just wrote or tell. I think that it was not called a medicine before. I think that it was more than a segment. I think that it was just an enhancer of our quality of life, and it was something used for evolve, and it was something that it was the central part of the cosmogonia, how the people were explaining their own existence. And I think that it's the origin of the existence of the humans. I really believe that before we start just burning things and smoking everything around us, and that lead us to the fact that these species of toad contain these properties that we knew before because of the plants. By then, we had uh, all the knowledge, all the receptors provided by nature, with all the natural plants that we ate in the raw form. But when we start just to alternate our uh, our consciousness with these technologies, we found a different way to do it, not only through the absorption of these molecules through our digestive system or through any mucosa, but going directly into the bloodstream by the lungs and putting all these directly there. So for living beings, for animals who were trying just to have fun and also to have more of the instinct of being in those beautiful places or those beautiful states that these compounds give you. But I also can see the difference between the toad medicine and the rest of the plants and the psychedelics. Even the plants who contain also 5-MeO-DMT as the yopo or the bilca or the ayahuasca, you can't reach those realms that the toad medicine uh, uh, give you with no
Experience, I think.
other kind of, yeah, it's not like. And also the experience is different because with all the plants and the traditional psychedelics that we know, we are experiencing the the visions through our eyes, through our, it's our mind, it's in our head.
Hmm.
And with the toad medicine, it's more like feelings and emotions. It's more like
Heart, hey?
it's a more universal, and it's an easier way to explain what you experience, because we all know about love, sadness, rage, blah blah blah, but it's really difficult to someone to try to explain what they saw in the mushroom experience or in the ayahuasca experience. Or there is a lot of archetypal and yeah, a lot of archetypes that appear during those experiences. But in my experience with with another kind of substances, there is also another archetypes, and I will tell you why I'm telling this. The jaguars and the serpents are really common in the visions with ayahuasca. I saw them.
Mm.
Also, when I was a crackhead and I was just completely paranoid, I saw all these spiders, these rats, these scorpions, all these things that can. It was like my nervous system was just telling me an alarm that I was just killing myself and that something really bad was about to happen. And by the other side, the other kind of plants just show you that these totems are more connected with another part of ourselves.
Mm.
I think that when someone is seeing something, it's like how they are interpreting the activation of their bodies through these receptors.
Mhm.
And we are explaining this in different ways with the plants, because this is more ancient than the usage of the toad. I think that the toad medicine. Well, I agree with the hypothesis of Terence McKenna and another authors about pre-humans using some kind of intelligent development of the consciousness. But I want to add that the handling of the fire allowed to humans or pre-humans to cooking the food. So this was
It is the link between ourselves and our ancestors through the smoking, breathing, the product combustion of nature. So this molecule of the top goes into the bloodstream without any other absorption needed. So goes straight and lead us straight to that feelings that we knew before because of the plants, as all the plants that contain 5-MeO DMT and another varieties of DMT or tryptamines. So I think that through the art that it's exhibited in the museums, we can just read about the presence of this concept or this idea of the unification or the center of the universe or the flower of life or this concept about perfection and eternity. So I think that these words or these thoughts or these symbols are are after we start to perceiving these experiences inside of us through nature. So I can see the similarities between the belief in the Chinese dragons and the feather serpent. But also in my last visit to the British Museum in London, I saw these sculptures of the Sumerians and the symbols that they are using for the guardians and the protectors are the same ideas we can find in Mesoamerica. And also the symbol of the flower of life that these guys have in the forehead and in the wrists are showing that they are talking about something beyond any doubt, beyond any possibility of failure. So these concepts were among all the humans and exist inside of us, but it's impossible to access to those places from this normality. So I think that all these pieces of art in the museums all over Mexico and all over the world are connected with some kind of natural language that nature has been using since the beginning of time just for communicate and express these concepts. In recent times, we only know right now about Insilis alvarius, but I don't know if it still exists in some kind of similar toads in China or in another region of the world. Science says until today that only Buphs alvarius or Insilis alvarius or Sonoran desert toad or Colorado river toad have this property, but because all the climatic changes through the time, we don't know if we're more than just one of these species in the past.
Is there any evidence or any mention, whether it's artwork or symbols or even written text from China or other parts of the world that suggest to you there may have been toads with similar entheogenic properties?
Absolutely. China is one of the best examples because of the myths of the dragons, and the dragons are just like the feather serpent of Mesoamerica, but also in the art. And for an example, they also buried their deads with these codes made of jade in these little tiny squares, just like the Mayan buried their deads with masks of jade and turquoise made with the same little tiny fragments. And because of the codex that I've seen, I can see the connection between the last god for these empires that was Huitzilopochtli, the god that we call god of war of the Aztecs. In the codex, this guy is dressing with the same pattern that we can see in the Mayan pottery that shows the toad and the gland of the toad. But also this god have in one hand, in the left hand, he's carrying a weapon, and the weapon is the sacrifice knife that we think, because of the archaeology theories, and also because of the chronicles of the conquerors, that these people were extracting their hearts with these items, with this sacrifice knife. But in the codex, we can see that the god of war, in the other hand, it's carrying a shield, and the shield have a pattern that it's irregular and have the same shape as the medicine in the macroscopic view. That's how the medicine looks if you look at the medicine. But also in the other codex, we can find the same sacrifice knife coming out from the mouth of the Tlaltecutli. And the Tlaltecutli is the mother earth goddess Toad for the Aztecs. And this Tlaltecutli is the representation of the planet Earth. Every year, the planet Earth is given to humans the sacrifice knife that I think that it's the 5MeODMT of the Sonoran Desert, Toad, because the sacrifice knife, when the codex show some guy with the heart being extracted, it's not being extracted for another guy. It's some kind of deity, and these drawings can show that the eyes of the gods is the same solar disk that we can find in the glands of the toad that are shown in the Toltecs and in the Olmecs and in the Mayan and all the rest of the prior cultures than the Aztecs, because the Aztecs survived until 1500, but they were the result of all the cultures before of them, and they were sharing the same ways to explain their own existence. Also, the politics and the society were influenced by the religious thoughts and all the mythology and all the supernatural concepts that we can't understand from the Western point of view. But it's really easy to understand through the eyes of the plants and the nature. When you experience the 5MeODMT from the toad, you will feel yourself connected as you are the center of your universe. And this symbol, it's called the Quetzalcoatl cross or the San Andres cross. And it's a symbol that we can find in the first effigy of Quetzalcoatl or feather serpent that exists in the museums. This is Olmec, and it's around three 3,500 old. So this effigy is showing the feather serpent and some human inside of the serpent, like riding the serpent, and he have the solar disk in the ears, but also the feather serpent shows a couple of eggs, the symbol of the San Andres cross. But this guy is carrying some kind of handbag. The most interesting thing is that you can find the same handbag being carried by Mayans and also by Sumerians and by other cultures. So the buildings of the pyramids that are all over the world shown that at some time it was a huge global civilization. But I think that this civilization or these cultures were related between them by the nature. because all of them were speaking different languages. All of they spoke different languages, but all of them have the same art and the same legends and the same concepts. And I believe that all these concepts were born through our interaction with Mother Nature.
Is that interaction through entheogens particularly, or is that just a general spiritual insights that may have come to us as very early humans?
It's many things because we have evidence that pre-humans were using psychoactive plants. There is in Shanidar in Iraq one Neanderthal body of 66,000-year-old approximately. This was unburied by Solenki, and this Neanderthal was found with 10 different psychoactive plants around him in some kind of buried, or un entierro ritual. So this is a sample and as a clue of the importance of plants and psychoactive plants in the history of hominids.
Absolutely.
So I think that through time we just pass through the next generation all the knowledge that was important for us to survive as a species, because at some point we were dealing with just surviving. like sur- uh, there were many different dangers for us as beings. So we just kept working cooperatively between us to to survive. So I think that all the plants that were important for us were taken as sacred. At some point, we just stopped being nomads and semi-nomads, looking for shelter and for food, and we start to being settled and having cities. So I think that this medicine also might be connected with that, because all the effigies of Quetzalcoatl, all the effigies of the feather serpent, all the effigies of this symbol, it's the central part of the calendar of the ancient Mesoamerican cultures, and also you can find the same concept in China. So because the toads know, or the nature know exactly when these beings will appear every year, this was the central part of the calendar. So I think that because they can store this medicine, they can carry and transport and travel with this medicine. That this was also a way to influence the rest of the people around. And I think we need to think and to realize that this was happening for hundreds of thousands of years. This was not something about 3 or 4 or 500 years. This was thousands, I'm sorry, hundreds of thousands of years. Because we think that hominids start to use the fire between 800,000 to 360,000 years ago. So the usage of this medicine, it's that old. At some point, one guy just trapped one of these toads, tried to cook it or cook him inside of a cave. Then all of them have the experience of the medicine, and then they discovered that the toad shouldn't suffer any harm, and they can just squeeze the gland and extract the fluid. And we can see all this in the Mayan codex and in the Mesoamerican cultures. But this is just the last of all the civilizations that were using this kind of treasure of nature as a language, as a way of ruling their own lives from the internal consciousness.
So with the
Yeah, the drive or the fluid, liquid fluid of the toad, it's all methylbufotinin. So if you eat this compound, that it's also lethal in a dose of 400 milligrams per kilogram, that means that a person of 80 kilos will need 24 grams of bufotinin for being poisoned himself for eating this. But also the effects of bufotinin are not like the effects of 5-MeO. So the 5-MeO is created with the combustion of the fire of the fluid, and there is no toxicity or overdose of 5-MeO-DMT for many reasons. So the amount that one person needs for dying for eating this will give the 5-MeO-D experience to hundreds of people. So only through ignorance someone will lick or eat something like this. So there is one legend of the Aztecs and the Mesoamerican cultures, the Olmecs and all of them, that talks about how the fifth sun was created. And they say that after four times of humankind was tried to be created and failed, they were all in shadows, in darkness. So they agree that one of the gods should jump into the pyre. So from this sacrifice, the fifth sun will rise on the horizon. On the horizon. So there is one god named Tecusistecatl to offer himself for this honor. But after two failed attempts, the gods stop everyone. But this little tiny god that was full with protuberances in all his body and some kinds of wounds, he jumped into the fire, and then the next god also jumped, and at the next morning two suns were shining. So one of the gods threw a rabbit on the face of the second sun, demising the light. So that's how they were explaining the existence of the sun and the moon and the planets. But there is, and then we can see there this little character that we can assume that it's a hero, and it's something connected with the light, and it's something connected with the heart, and it's something connected with the bravery, and it's something connected with all these concepts that are not like feeling fear, yeah, like the other god felt. So
Okay.
these are like human emotions and human values. So it's interesting because the rich god offered to the gods balls of gold and feathers of quetzal and thorns of coral and another exquisite objects. But the poor god only could offer to the gods thorns of maguey rubbed with the secretion of his wounds. So we can see there the appearance of some kind of substance that this guy was offering to the gods for his for the gift and the honor that they were offering to him. But there is another legend about how there is three interesting legends. This is one. The other one is how the world was created, and this was through the sacrifice of some kind of beast that was some kind of crocodile or some kind of huge toad that was living on the oceans before the earth was created. So the twins were sent to the earth to kill this animal. So Tezcatlipoca and Quetzalcoatl, the twins, in the Mayan, these guys appears with another names, but it's the same legend. And the creature that was sacrificed, the name is Zipactli. So when they Tezcatlipoca cut his leg himself and throw his leg to the water into the water as a bait. So the huge fish was uh, uh, chasing the blood and the flesh. So she was visible, and then Quetzalcoatl and Tezcatlipoca jump, and from the body of this huge animal, all the world was created, and the waters and the earth was made or created. So we can see again there the presence of some kind of reptile that it's connected with the creation and with the earth and with the life and with the gods and with all the supernatural wisdom. But the third legend that it's about the Coatlicue, that it's the earth, she's the mother of Quetzalcoatl or Huitzilopochtli. I will tell this story as the Aztecs tell it because they were the last. So it's I think that the last version of this story. So the Coatlicue was cleaning the top of the mountains of the serpents or the major temple. And then this feather was falling from the sky, falling down from the sky. So she took the feather with her hand and put it on her womb. And then she was pregnant from Quetzalcoatl or Huitzilopochtli. But then her daughter, the moon, felt herself ashamed because the action of her mother that she considered as impure because this new brother has no any father. So the moon talked with all the rest of the sons and daughters of the earth. They call it the 400,000 chichimecas or the stars. So the moon and the stars are coming to kill the earth when she give birth to this warrior. But the interesting part is that this warrior is not only the sun. He has some kind of tool or weapon. They call it Huitzcoatl or serpents of fire. And he started to launch these serpents. And as soon as the serpents touch everything, everything was transformed or converted into light. So they explain also the life and the existence and the light and the shining of everything through some kind of energy. So coming again to the codex, we can see that the shield and the weapon are connected with the medicine that we can extract from the toad. This medicine is not just golden as everyone in the ancient world are talking about this golden guy or energy who was showing to everyone how to speak and how to behave and how to work through the metals and how to be civilized or yeah how to become a civilization.
Yep.
And for the series that is this one of the 13 tribes that exist in the desert, they have the same legend about one golden energy who showed them how to put all the names for all the things that exist in this region of the world. But there is something really interesting here. When I took one of the series to the museums in Mexico City, and they start to see all the seashells that are exhibited beside the effigy of the Tlaltecutli, the god, the mother earth goddess Tol that was discovered in 2006 and exhibited in 2012, and is the central part of all the museum. It's huge. It's more than 4 meters long, so and wide. So this area start to call all the seashells that are exhibited in the museum in their own language. They can identify all these pieces that are exhibited not only in the Templo Mayor Museum, but in all the museums of Mesoamerica. So the evidence that connect this area of Mexico with Mesoamerica and also with the rest of the tribes among America, it's connected with this unique my species. Last visit to British Museum, I took photograph also of some pipes that were found in Mississippi and in Ohio in North America, and these pipes are in the shape of toads. So for me, it's really clear that at some point this web, this mattress, that this kind of yeah, that everyone were connected through the knowledge that was transmitted by generations. At some point, we just lose the track of that and also of ourselves as as a fragment of all these unique way of conceiving life that was, I think that all over the world, because I can see the connection in the legends and in the mythology and everywhere. Well, when the Americas were discovered, uh, um, eh, two huge empires exist: the Inca Empire and the Aztec Empire. After the conquer, the Spaniards were still looking for the greatest treasure of these cultures. The last emperor of the Aztecs, Moctezuma, died screaming that the greatest treasure still under the ground. And also in the Andes, the conquerors still for centuries looking for El Dorado. That was this huge city that they thought that contained the greatest goods that these people had. So I think the El Dorado, it's the ayahuasca, that it's the greatest treasure that exists in the jungle. And I think that the hidden treasure of the Aztecs is the Sonoran Desert Toad. I think that this knowledge was interrupted by centuries for the imposition of a way of conceiving life, and that it's based on fear and on ignorance. But I think that everything it's perfect and everything was just what was meant to be. But I think that we now, as humans in this present time, we can just take a look on the facts and stop reading the same lines and turn on the page and start writing a new chapter about our experiences of life. But most important, I think that we need to respect again nature as the origin and the source of everything, because our egos and our minds are educated for thinking that we can control everything around us, but they never show us how to control ourselves.
Hmm.
And I think that this sacred knowledge of the planet was being hidden by the nature itself to protect us from our madness. And I think that it's time just to reconnect, to plug in back our consciousness in a greater one. And I think that this has exists inside of our hearts. It's just that we remember. And the total medicine, it's a great vehicle to just get this done once for all. It's a huge sweating lodge at Temazcal for around 50 people. And then there is a court for a ball game. And also a huge square for 10,000 people. And the archaeologists found the leader in chief of this site and this excavation. It's Jaime Cortez, and they found around 1,500 figures of pottery related with the fertility, reproduction, and the cycles of abundance, of raining, and the calendar. So it seems that all these uh, uh, peregrinations, all the pilgrim, all the todo el peregrinaje that these people did in the past through these sacred places are connected with the usage not only of the toad medicine, but all the rest of the psychoactive plants that were an influence for people for their culture. We can still perceiving through the cultures as the Huicholes or the many tribes in South America that are still using the yopon, the ayahuasca, the importance of these medicines for them. But we need to see the general view that all these cultures at some point were disconnected by the interruption of all the trade routes that exist all over America. Because if the American people, maybe I'm not using the proper words to call the Americas or whatever, but these are words that we just put into the lands, and it's easier for everyone because some people can feel that I'm insulting the land just because I'm using this name of Americo Vespucio that have nothing to, but so the people of the Americas were living in these areas after the last ice age. That's what the science says. Through the Bering Steppe, they cross from Asia to this region of the world, and they populate all the different areas and regions from Alaska to the Patagonia. So at some point, these people cross Sonora Desert. At some people, and these people had the knowledge about all the things that they were leaving behind, and I think that they considered themselves as families. And I can see because of the pyramids and because of the art that this was all over the world. So I'm not saying that the Mesoamerican cultures are the first cultures to use the toad, not or the only one. No, I'm just saying that they are the last remain of this wisdom that was alive in the humans. Just I have many hypotheses or many thoughts or many um, deductions, from any, yeah. I assume that these people also had rituals for ingesting these medicines. It was not something of the daily life activity, but this was part of the system of beliefs and of the cycles. For an example, all these cultures built a new pyramid after 52 years above the old one. So in Tenochtitlan, you can dig through five different eras or stages of the same site. They were recreating all the creation of the world every 52 years, building again all the structures over and over again. They were doing these rituals about the fire, the new fire, and everything was connected with the calendar, with the rainy season. So I think that at some point, people, before they were settled and they were nomads and semi nomads, they just got that this precious gift of nature was really important for them. Because if people right now are saying that this experience is something incredible and beyond and blah, 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 well, we are just using small amounts of this. We don't know how these people used this in the past, but I can see, because he's present on the legends, on the creation of the world, on the calendar, on the pottery, on the burials, on the art, everywhere, that it was really something really important. So there is also these stories or this evidence that they were doing some kind of games for war, for having captives and sacrificing these captives in the rituals. So I don't know if this medicine is connected with all that at some point. I think, because what I've seen, that this medicine might be used for many different purposes than just altering the consciousness or connecting with another place. But for me, it's really interesting that the difference between this medicine and all the rest of the plants is that this is not about seeing any vision. This is about having an experience of yourself connected with the exterior. So I think that emotions and feelings, that it's a universal language in all the humans, it's the last part of the chain in the evolving of our species. And this is connected directly with the 5-MeO-DMT being ingested from the toad or another toad from many generations. I mean, the genes were passed uh, until we are here since the beginning of time. And this is, the toad has suffered no any change, but we are changed so much in the last 100,000 years. That's what science says. And I believe that we just shift from primal beings to um, beings that have all these skills that we have now, but also we are disconnected from all that part of our own essence. And I think that we are going back there. I think that this has happened even before. I think that this is just another huge cycle of the life in this planet, and we are just going back into the position to say, hey, we need to take care of our home. We need to clean this place. We need to show different things to our kids. We need to change education. We need to do this and do that, because now we are facing the results of our actions, and everyone is just looking so desperately for being awake. And I think that this is something really effective, something really fast, but it's a really safe medicine, but needs to be done with preparation. So I think that people in the past had all this preparation. They knew how to combine different plants for what purposes, how to detox a body with how what kind of diet, and then they had all these different tools. I've also had have images of Mayan art with some kind of devices inside of the rectum. So we are really primitive in the way of thinking that only through eating or snoring or smoking we can alter our systems. Because I know that these people, because of the chronicles that I wrote about that I read about things being rubbed like cream or paste into the body
Mhm.
to have another kind of the reaction. So I think that the combination of all these tools were available for these people, and we are just trying to put the whole puzzle back again because there is a lot of loose in
So,
my own life has been like that, has been nature leading my steps and not my mind, because if I follow my mind then I can be hooked again into the fears and on the thinking too much. So it's better for me just to follow my heart, and the nature has been the light that I'm following.
so, with your personal practices like a shaman or facilitator, how do you actually call yourself a shaman, or how do you describe what you do in assisting people
Well,
with the medicine?
I can use that word because of the of what I'm doing, but I think that there is a lot of that word is really deep, and shamanism has been with humans also since the beginning of time. The shaman in the past was the carrier of the knowledge, and also was the connector and the transmitter and the facilitator, and also it was at the same time the wizard and the even the joker. I mean, the this word it's really diverse. Some people in South America they call that the shamans are the molecules of the medicines. So maybe because I'm all the time doing this kind of work, maybe I'm doing some kind of shamanism, but I don't think that I'm different than the rest of the people. I think that everything that I'm doing is because I learned how to do it. And maybe because it was my role to play this life. I don't know if I choose this before coming here, but I definitely I'm choosing to follow this path because I feel in my core that it's the best thing that I can do. But there is no any magic that I'm doing with people. For me, everything is just about singing, about dancing, about sharing my love, about clapping, about touching. And I think and I can say that everyone is just healing themselves through the nature and through the medicines and discovering themselves. But there is necessary to have a context and to have the right way to do things. And I really believe, I don't know if how I do the medicine is the best because I'm not following someone else's steps. I'm just leading this, and it's really difficult to do that because you have no any reference. But this will be in the future because more people now are also offering the medicines, and they can speak about how they are doing it and the differences and similarities and blah 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 blah. But it's really important that we know that these medicines are something really serious, that it's not something recreational that you can use by yourself when you are drunk in the middle of a party. There is necessary to understand it's important to understand the differences between the poisons and the venoms and the medicines. Also, the differences between all the chemicals that exist out there. It's necessary to put in a different category the sacred medicines, natural medicines, with the medicines that are being prescribed with the maybe the same purposes, but the results are really different. Also, with the differentiation with the street use drugs, with the synthetic drugs, with the semi-synthetic drugs, I think that we need to do a new way to classify, to make the classification of the properties of the plants, because I think that we are using not the best method for measure the benefits or the dangers of these medicines for us. And yeah, I think that we are doing something really really good for everyone. We are doing just the first steps in that direction. So I prefer to call myself physician. I am just I'm still being a doctor. I still using what it's on my criteria to help people. It's just that I'm not doing what I was doing before, because I've discovered a better way to do it. And for me, the chanting of the ancient communities are uh, directly linked with the efficiency of the medicine, because I'm watching every day that to happen. So I think that in the future, all the medicines are going to be used together in places where people can just show about the experiences of life. There is no such thing of healers. I think that no one can heal anyone else, just themselves. And we all are doing that, trying to do this for us. I don't believe in witchcraft, but I believe in the power of the suggestion and the power of the fragility of the mind. People at those states, they are really easy influenceable by the exterior, but also there is a lot of fear around experiences. So, for an example, if someone had the toad experience and they are having some kind of hard nights after, because they are going back into that same moment, because they are, and they tell that, it's because you are under the yeah, the spell or some kind of magician, and then they are having all these non-pleasant sensations, because the body is having the process after the intake of the medicine, even weeks or months later. So when someone think that this medicine will just last for 15 minutes or half hour, they are wrong. This will be with you forever. When people think that because this is non-toxic, this can be used with no any preparation, they are wrong. After my research, I've seen the how it's necessary to put together method, a whole yeah, steps to follow before going into this experience. The way of eating, the exercise, the experience with another plants and medicines, having a clean body. It's not a reason for not doing it, but if you are clean, this will be easier for you. If you know how to handle your emotions, this will be easier for you. In my experience, around 3 to 5% of people have some kind of negative side effect. That is the most common. It's fear and some kind of anxiety or panic attacks. We can call it or use these words, but I don't think also that these words are the most accurate to express what these people are feeling. Also, if they go with some health practitioner, and then the doctor think that he's having some kind of psychotic event, all these things are really because we don't have any context to handle these experiences. By another hand, when people is doing this in some kind of retreat for a week and they have the time to integrate experience after, to ground experience after, they will have more benefits about this experience. So it's about how are you doing things, not just what are you doing. But all this needs to be created for all of us. And as more people get involved in the protection of the unique species with some kind of sacred value, as the Sonoran Desert toad, or another many plants that exist. And I mean, we need to plant the plants. We have the seeds now. We can put it on the ground, and we can just wait for the fruits of our work. But we are waiting for someone else to do it, and we are also worst thinking that we can buy this in a store. And I can say that if we go in the cooperative mode and we do this together for everyone instead of thinking that this belongs to me and whatever, and we stop doing the same pattern of action of the past, we will do the change uh, finally.
I understand. With it seems like there's a long historical trajectory for people that have had a trauma or a damage or a difference somehow to be drawn to shamanism, but also they're the same people that often end up as people with really serious substance abuse issues. Um, what do you think the origin of this people becoming addicted are? Is it a sense of loss, of grievance,
Yeah,
a
no, it's
deep hurt?
a lack of love. We all humans, we all are addicts. Addict, we can be addict to sex, to sugar, to food, to reading the paper, to exercise, to being socially accepted, to be ad- addict, addicts to doing things right into the system. There is all kind of addiction. Everything that you do and gives you pleasure, you will try to do it often and often. But there is really ugly things to do instead of another ones that can be more beneficial for us. So I think that this kind of ancient technologies of humans are showing us that this is a natural part of ourselves. There is nothing wrong with that. It's just that we are accessing to not the healthiest addictions. There is people who are addicts to the work, and this might be productive for society, so that's an accepted addiction. But by other hand, the guy who is using the morphine that he got in the streets as heroin, and he's non-productive, then he's being looked as bad. But we can have a cancer patient that is being treated with the same substance that the other guy is using for destroy himself, and because this guy is about to die, we accept that this guy is on the same state. So we are just I think that not real clear about the effects of these medicines. I can see in the future these medicines also being used for people who are about to die. Maybe for some people it's too late to do the changes in their habits to make the remission of all the consequences of their actions. But there is just a moment need to be I think freed of all these things that exist in your mind and in your heart. And I think that these medicines can be used for that. For that, now can see that the MDMA is used by in research for post-traumatic disorder,
Hmm.
but this is semi-synthetic. and this is recreating the effects of natural medicines. So why we don't choose for going and choosing the botanical gardens, the natural medicine, instead of having more boxes with pills inside?
Do any people come to you for assistance with issues like post-traumatic stress disorder, where they, I don't know, they might be soldiers or they might have been raped as children? People with problems like that often do use
I
substances.
I've seen all kind of expressions of the addiction. I've seen all kind of excuses that people use for feeling themselves as a victim and using that mask for living in suffering and in pain and in misery because it's comfortable. But I've seen also that there is many people that someday they just choose another way of living and they just follow that path and they are free for forever. But I think that we will still looking for the stimulation of our minds and our bodies. I think that as we still alive, we will be in the same um, search of identity, of inner peace, of happiness. And I think that we need to just be really clear with us about what those concepts mean. So people are chasing happiness through many different substances, and they are using a lot of excuses or events in their lives that happen hundreds, yeah, hundreds of days or years in the past. And I can see that these medicines can just be used for treat all those situations.
So, does the reason those medicines work with people with addictions is because they give them an experience of love they may have never had before or may have had too little of, and they can
That
kind
can be one. I want to see the result of the scans and the images of how the brain or the body it's being activated, or which regions have been activated through this medicine. Because I've been doing a rescue of this medicine, but I really need the support of universities and more researchers for finding out how this medicine work, because I've seen different benefits in people's life, but this is not how can I say it, curalo todo, something that can heal everything.
yeah.
This is not magic stick. This is something that can be really useful and depends on many factors, the final result for people. But the medicine, it's really effective, and the medicine, it's the most remarkable thing is that it's natural, needs no any kind of process or manufacturing for being what it is. So for me, this needs to be understand or understood as a humankind treasure, and I'm really concerned about the toad and the environment of the toad, because we can't just stop people for trying to feel good, and this will feel good many people. So we need to create the structures or the systems or the institutions for allowing people to do this without getting this toll extincted.
Endangered. Is there any concern now that they are endangered, the toad, or are there plenty of numbers?
Uh, they are just a few compared with humans, and now the natives are involved into the collecting of the medicine. But until the natural reserves are not completed, the toad still being in danger, because now it's and there is only one Sonoran desert toad. So my advice to people is, please don't buy these beings in the on the internet. Don't keep these beings in captivity, because you can't reproduce them. And the medicine that you collect from them is just a little bit. And with the time, it won't be as potent as the natural medicine, because these beings are really connected with the planet. They are only out for a few weeks every year, and they are all the time inside of the underground, hibernating,
Oh, okay, so
getting.
they live underneath the ground, and when wet season comes, the water activates them, and is that how it works?
Kaita, yo de kaita, yo se canta, que yo de me yo de kaita.
Communities of Mexico and the world will come together to protect their ancient heritage. I think that they will step up from the toad, and they will create all this culture about the respect of nature. I have no idea if the toad will be a controlled substance in the future in Mexico or in other countries. I really don't think so, because it might be regulated, and I want that be regulated. I want to avoid people to extract the toad, taking the toads out from the desert. I want to create a law to protect the toad, but I don't want that law forbid this and for being used people. And because there is right now laws about the freedom and sovereign nations, that they can use their ancient knowledge. The told now it's in that same category with the Seris and the Yaquis and another tribes of Sonora. So I think that needs to be worldwide associations are, as Greenpeace, as Health World. Everyone needs to be involved in protecting this species and creating the context
Oh,
of the natural for us.
okay, thank you so much.